know you mentioned, I think in your book, that 2008 was a year that you felt things changed. What happened?
Yeah. 2008, I think, really is a watershed moment for China. I think what happened was, I think before the financial crisis, there was a lot of the debate in the society at large, and very often at the top of the leadership level, is not about whether we want to be like the West or we're going to go the route of West, where the model, copy the model of the West or not. It's more about at what pace are we going to, go along on that route. And the financial crisis really, really changed that. I think from that moment, society at large, and also the leadership definitely, is looking at it and say, well, look at the entire world. They are crashed and burning. And look at us. We are doing well. And then if not for us holding the exchange rate, the RMB exchange rate steady, Asia would have gone down. So, we are sort of the savior of the world in a sense. And also, they reevaluate the situation. They say, well, maybe the West model is not that great at all. And then maybe our model is not that bad. So that really changed the perception, the belief of how they look at the West and how they look at their own development and economic model. And another part of it is their view of the state-owned enterprise. In the past, it always has been, let's retrench the inefficient state-owned enterprise and let the private enterprise and the foreign company advance in the economy. So that's the general sense of that. But the financial crisis really, because at that moment they say, well, okay, I want to inject another 400 billion into the economy, and I will do it. And then obviously the quickest way to do it is through the state-owned enterprise, because the state-owned enterprise basically, they say, well, okay, the bank's gonna give you 100 million tomorrow, and then in a week you're gonna start spending that 100 million, right? They can give direct orders like that, and then as private enterprise you cannot, right? You have to sort of put out policies, roundabout encouragement, encourage company to invest and all that. It's a very different way of management, right? So they say, well, okay, well, maybe it's very important. It is very important for us to keep the state-owned enterprise having a central role in the economy, because we can actually direct them at the snap of a finger. So all this come together, and then always, underneath all of that, the bureaucracies always have a tendency, have an urge to exert their influence, exert their power, right? I mean, if a bureaucrat, I'm now sitting in ministry, all I do is look, directing, helping sort of the private enterprise to advance. What's my power? Where's my power? The moment they say, well, but tomorrow onward, you have two state-owned enterprise under your direction, and then you can direct them how to spend 500 million. Hey man, he's all for it. He's all for it. So that's all, the system always baked in, has this urge to assert yourself in the economy. So all that come together. After the financial crisis, things really start changing.
So basically, it went from a sort of shadowy control of the Chinese Communist Party over private enterprises to just more direct party control.
Yeah, I think it went from reluctantly letting you guys grow to a state of like, okay, I'm gonna reassert myself. You guys gonna come on. You guys need to retreat. Put in a retreat. You guys should step back a bit.
Yeah. You had an interesting anecdote about having a party secretary in your company, right? Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, after the financial crisis, they never before. I mean, they start. I have a joint venture with the state-owned enterprise. So, although I'm the majority shareholder, and then I was the CEO, they requested that I put in a party apparatus.
Requested?
Well, I mean, how can you say no, right? I mean, it's like, and then they put in up your apparatus, and then they appointed a party secretary to my company. and all of a sudden I need his consent on many corporate matters, and they change dynamic of management.
Yeah. What are some specific business decisions that you had to make differently than you would have otherwise because of pressure from the party secretary?
Everything. I mean, he, I need to consult with him on everything, because although he doesn't have an official title to be the manager of the company, you upset him, and he's going to run back to his superior, and then he's going to create trouble for me, so trying to sort of make it almost like a not a co-CEO per se, but at least a junior co-CEO.
And so, like, you had to develop this relationship with him as well to just make friends with him, right, and make sure that he was agreed with you. Geez, I just can't imagine having that. Like in our small company, I'm just imagining like the U.S. government or like one political party says like, oh, you have to now have this person deciding like what episodes you're going to produce or what topics you're going to cover. Like, that's insane to me. But it sounds like that's just the norm of what happens in China.
Yes.
Well, that and bottles of Motai.
Yeah.
Oh man. How does the party apparatus kind of how do the families of party officials come into this? Like, we talked a little bit about, the private equity having to hire like the sons and daughters of Chinese officials.
Right.
Like, how much of the wealth is in family members of the Communist Party?
What happened is basically, some of the family actually designed in such a way. I mean, I call it I call it red aristocrats in my book. And then it's go by bloodline, in like the medieval, aristocrats. And they some of the family actually designed in such a way. So one, like the daughter going to the private business or going to run a business, and the son going to political system. So the family has one leg on each side of the game. And then a lot of times, I mean, so to your question, I think every government official or every bureaucrat has their finger in some pot. I remember like 30 years ago when I started doing business in China, you used to have this joke. You line up, China has a quote unquote very stringent punishment for corrupt officials, right? So like 30 years ago, we have this joke, like you line up all the Communist Party members against the wall, you shoot them one after another, you're shooting too few of them. You're missing a whole bunch of corrupt officials. But you shoot every one of them, you're probably shooting a few too many, because some of them actually may not be corrupt. But, by that, by the party standard, today's world, you shoot all the 95 million members, I don't think anybody would be mistaken.
Wow.
Sounds like a very, very functional system.
That has been the way it is.
This is why, Xi Jinping's so-called anti-corruption campaign, and I think the Western media often frame it as going after corruption. But basically, if every party member is corrupt, then clearly his campaign has nothing to do with corruption, and merely he's using corruption as like a legal tool to go after the specific people he wants to go after.
I think I have a few things to say. One is his starting point when he started this is definitely a political cleansing program to assert his power and grab power from different factions and from possible political rivals. That's definitely a starting point.
Some of those did try to do a coup against him. So, yeah.
And then, but he also, I do believe he does want to have a cleanse of the system to us at sort of the junior level, so to speak, right? But if you look at the history of 70 years of Communist Party, this kind of campaign has been going, having recycled itself every few years, every decade or two. It has always has this, but it never has a lasting effect because the structure of this is baked into the system. Like, just give you an example, the Centennial Party celebration, right? Celebrating the Communist Party, the CCP's 100 years anniversary. The London reports about this 7 busload of red aristocrats went on to Tiananmen Square and stand beside Xi Jinping and watched the parade, right? That 7 busload, they are the cream of the crop of the red aristocrat. They have, if you look at them, they have no official title. They are just supposedly quote-unquote average citizen. They have no specific contribution you can name to the city, to the society, or to the country. The only reason they can go on top of the Tiananmen Square and stand next to the party chairman and the president of China as almost equals is by bloodline. The only reason they have this kind of position is kind of bloodline. So they are the true, I actually would call them the true owner of China. A lot of people, have this say, oh, Communist Party this and Communist Party that. Communist Party is made up by people. These are the people who actually own the Communist Party.
It's interesting. Like, you really frame it as like just systemic corruption within China, within the Chinese Communist Party. I think I know why they didn't want you to publish your book.
Go ahead.
Well, for all of that.